Welcome to a new series on organic gardening, coming to you from Hallelujah Acres. Over the next year, we will take you step by step from the very beginning planting in the spring through harvest, and we want you to come along with us and enjoy a journey into organic gardening the Hallelujah way. In this first episode, we want to talk about what type of gardening you are going to do. Depending on your situation, your location, there is a means of gardening for each one of you. The most popular, probably, or at least it has been in the past, is open ground gardening, where you actually take a piece of ground, and if it's got grass on it, you're going to remove the grass and you're going to turn over the ground, and depending on the soil type where you live, this can be the poorest or most difficult means of gardening. And so the only way that I can see using open ground anymore, once I have learned to do raised beds, is to do open ground gardening for big crops, like corn, like squash, like watermelons, and that type, which cover a lot of ground. But other than those types of crops, my favorite way of gardening is in raised beds. And that's what I've done here at the Villages of Hallelujah Acres. This is right next to my home. And the raised bed gardens, you can do them with any type of material. My beds are 4 feet wide by 12 feet in length. You can make boards to outline them, and then within that boarded area, you prepare the soil, and you build up the soil and work that soil until it is so loose and friable that you can almost work your garden without any tools. But my favorite way of gardening is what I've got here by our house here in the Villages of Hallelujah Acres. And we have taken those raised beds and really raised them. We've raised them up so that there is no bending involved. And that is so nice that you don't have to break your back when you're gardening. I've made them out of fancy block, and I have filled them with very, very wonderful friable soil. And so that is the second method, I think the best method, even if you have a very limited amount of space around your home. The third method that we can use is container gardening. And we'll show you in a few moments the type of containers that you can use to have a garden, even if you don't have ground, even on a patio, if you have such. And so the fourth way that we can garden is indoors, and that is growing sprouts. And we're going to cover each one of these, show you how to begin, what soil to use, how to fertilize, and I think it's going to be an interesting series.
You haven't been properly introduced to the Hallelujah diet until you've heard about it in person from Reverend George Malkmus. Join us at the God's Way to Ultimate Health Seminar, held the first Saturday of every month here at Hallelujah Acres. Admission is free, and there's no registration required.
The first type of bed we're going to do is raised beds. If you recall, a year ago, we built these beds, and we showed you the process of building them. Well, here we are a year later, and we're going to show you what they look like, and we're going to show you what the crops are starting to look like that we are growing in them. But before we do that, let's take a look back and see how we prepared and built these beds a year ago.
Rob, bring the other bag of peat moss, please. He wants organic vegetables, so we want to have a nice rich soil to start with, something he can, get him a good start. The red soil is great for lawns, but it compacts too tight for your vegetables and so forth. It won't give the roots room to grow. We're using a good pro mix of the potting soil, which is good stuff, but for the vegetable, we're going to have one need a little drainage, and also you need to hold water, so you got kind of fighting two different elements. So we're putting the peat moss to retain water, and then we're putting this organic soil conditioner to kind of keep the soil from tightening down too much where the root system can go into it and also have a little drainage. This is basically just a soil conditioner. What it does is keep the soil there again from compacting too tight, and also it's got a little nutrient value. It's almost like a mulch, heavy grind mulch, basically. Peat moss is what we use to retain water. It absorbs, it's like a sponge. Pack it in good around that head. I'm installing the misting heads It's attached to our irrigation system coming from the well. And so when we get through, we'll be able to, he'll be able to turn on his irrigation system and water the garden at any time he chooses. Each head puts out approximately 2 gallons of water per minute. Usually the drainage is a real big problem. People don't allow for the drainage in the bottom, and it holds water. And the second biggest mistake is not filling up the container up high enough. When they do plant their vegetables, usually plant them too deep. Other than that, I think because if you use a good soil, you're going to usually get a good plant.
So here we are a year later, and I want to show you just exactly what we've got going already. This is the 14th of April, and we've already got crops growing here in our raised beds. Here we have some garlic that we planted last October, and these will be ready to harvest in a few months. These are garlic chives, and you can see how healthy they look. These are a holdover from last year. Here we have some spinach. Here we have some radishes. Now these radishes were planted on February the 22nd, and look at the size of them. We planted them before the spring came. We planted them while the weather was still quite cold, and yet we have a beautiful crop already of radishes here on the 14th of April. On that same date that we planted these radishes in February, we planted some beets. Of course, they take longer to mature, but they're well on their way. Here we have some lettuce. We did these from starter plants, so they were advanced. This is red Russian kale, a wonderful source of kale that grows very rapidly and produces a lot of green, and we will be harvesting these into our green smoothies very soon. Here's some spinach that we started this year, also in March on the 12th. Another row of radishes, and another, and this next row, by the way, is kohlrabi. Don't know if you've ever had kohlrabi, but it builds a nice root above the ground. It's very sweet, and we like to shred them into our carrots. Down here on the end, we have starter onion sets. And these were planted about a month ago, and these will develop nice big onions that we will be able to harvest and then store and use right up till about Christmas of this year. And so already you can see we've got a wonderful garden started, and we're going to show you the next step as we go to the container gardens.
Do you know someone with gluten intolerance or celiac disease? Do we have a recipe book for you? Introducing Gluten-Free Resolutions, a brand new ebook packed with plant-based gluten-free recipes suitable for the Hallelujah diet. Ask our customer service team how you can download a copy of Gluten-Free Resolutions recipe ebook.
We've just discussed raised bed gardening, and I've shared a little bit about how I do it here at Holly Acres in my own backyard. Now we want to talk about container gardening. Suppose you don't have any land around your house, or you don't even live in a house. You live in a condominium maybe, and you have a patio or a porch where you have some sunlight, direct sunlight, a good portion of the day. You can grow quite a bit in containers. And this here is just a baby spinach, organic baby spinach container, and we're going to plant radishes in here. I did that last year, and we harvested 2 rows of the most beautiful radishes right from this little tiny container. And then we're going to show you how with a larger container we can grow herbs and have them stacked around on the patio or wherever you have a place where they will receive direct sunlight a good part of the day.
What makes Barley Max so special? The fact that it's so simple, yet so beneficial. Barley Max is like a catalyst that makes all other foods on the Hallelujah diet work to your advantage. To order your supply of Barley Max, talk to our customer service team or visit us online at hacres.com.
So we've left my gardens, my raised bed gardens, located in my backyard in the villages of Holly Acres. Now we're over here behind Holly Acres, and we're going to show you an example of open ground gardening. And this garden has been here for several years. It started out with just grass and weeds, and each year we have plowed it up, we have tilled it, we have added amenities, and we're getting it ready for the new season crops. To me, this is the most difficult means of gardening, and the raised bed is so much easier. But for large plants like corn and squash and watermelons and so forth, this is a good way to do it. So now we've shared with you the various types of gardening that you can do, and we want to now introduce you to Willie, our master gardener here at Hallelujah Acres, and she has a few tips for you.
Hi, my name is Willie Murray, and I'm the organic gardener at Hallelujah Acres, and I'm here with a quick tip for you that can help you with your spring garden. I've already planted my corn plants. They're about 3 weeks old, and now that they're getting some height to them, I'm going to add some compost that we made from our vegetable waste from our kitchen, and this is going to help the plants. It's going to cover my drip irrigation. It'll give support and nutrition to my plants. And it's going to, as the season progresses, it'll help keep their roots cool. And that's a quick tip for you from Hallelujah Acres.
These are collard plants left over from last fall's garden. We've been harvesting these and putting them into our green smoothies most of the winter. And it won't be long when our new collard plants have grown large enough for us to start using, and then we'll pull these out and we'll replant in this area. And so even here in North Carolina in the wintertime, we are able to harvest collard greens, and that's really nice to go out in the garden even in the winter and be able to harvest food for the table's use. All right, now you have seen the various types of gardens you can have. You see how I do it here in the villages of Hallelujah Acres right next to my home, and we hope that you will choose one of these various methods to grow a garden this year where you live, no matter what type of setting you have. And so till next week, when we deal with the type of garden that you're going to grow and use, this is George Malkmus signing off. See you next week. God bless.